Yeah, I'm just about on my way. I gotta go down and got to go and borrow my own angle grinder because it's being used on permanent loan, you know how it is, at our building site. So I gotta go down and get it so that I can do some work on my rough and ready kitchen. And now, of course, as soon as I get in the truck, I get some duties to do. So I have to go, and on my way there, certainly on my way to Taliban, where I'm going to pick up Beth later, I will be able to drop them off. I'm talking about the water bottles that are in the back of the truck here. So I'll drop them off, and when I come back they'll be full. Very, very cheap. I think for let me see, for 5 bottles it's 75 pesos. So not even 100 pesos, which is not even $2. So I never think that I'm exactly being ripped off. Now, have I actually started this? Yes, I have. Sometimes, because it's bright sunlight here, I never know whether I'm actually talking to myself or not. Oh, I am talking to myself, aren't I? So one of the things that I keep getting questions, and the question always is, how much does it cost to build a house? And I try to tell people that the whole subject of the whole mechanism of real estate, the buying and selling of homes and other real estate, is the same here as it is in any part of the world. It's more expensive to buy a piece of property where you can put a lovely house overlooking the ocean and the far distant islands than it is to buy on a scruffy little plot on the other side of the quarry. So it depends, again, what people, or what the real estates always say, is location, location, location. It depends where you're going to actually do that. Have the house. Where do you want to live? When I was thinking about how I would love to live in another country, when I was in America, and for whatever reason it didn't suit me, or I didn't suit it, I had a measure of success there, and then the real estate market crashed and everything went in the toilet, and houses that had previously been valued at over $250,000 ended up being sold on the courtroom steps, almost sight unseen. You know, a buyer could go and look at a house from the outside where the hapless owners, who were about to become former owners, were still living and were pretty upset about the situation. They would go and look at it and think, well, if I can get that for, in my case, for 40 or 45,000, deal done. So I know that I've gone off at the tangent again, but something sparks the interest in what I'm talking about, and it seems like it would be of interest to anybody who's listening. I remember when the market crashed, and what was happening was that people were able to buy into a house with no money. They were able to get a house, and there was a phrase for it, there was a description for it, of course, but what it boiled down to was that you didn't have to provide any documentation. So if you looked the real estate owner If you look the real estate person in the eye and said, I can make the payments, that was good enough, and they could get you into a house. Now, what this led to was people going into houses that, as the market went up, it was going up, up, up before it crashed, and then it crashed. So what happened was that people who had taken advantage of the ever-rising prices of houses and refinanced were what they call upside down. In other words, they were making the payments on a mortgage of, say, $250,000 on a house that was soon to sell on the courtroom steps for $50,000. So it didn't make any sense even to keep the house, and very few people had that $50,000 to buy back the house at that new rate. Now, all of this was tied up in insurance, so you would think, well, wouldn't the mortgage holders be willing to let that person stay in their house, a family, let them stay in their house, and revalue the mortgage that they were paying. So in other words, if the house was no longer worth $300,000 and they were going to let it go for 7 or 60, or I don't know, 50 or 60, these are real figures, by the way, then why wouldn't they, in the name of the humanitarianism of trying to take care of families in the society, why didn't they just let people say, well, no, that wasn't part of the deal, and it wasn't part of the plan. What happened at that time were some very exciting things, because there was one particular case of a man who was living in a $2 million home. A very nice home, by the way, of course. He lived in the $200 million home. $2 million, sorry. So he lived in that home, and he wasn't paying the mortgage. And when they knocked on the door and said, well, sorry, but we own the mortgage and you've got to pay. And he said, show me the note. Now, when a house is being sold, there's an original document. There's a document which shows that that house belongs to whoever holds the paper. Now, when he asked to see the original note, they couldn't show it to him. Now, why would they not be able to show the original note if they indeed did hold the mortgage? Well, there's a good reason for that. What was happening was that mortgages were being bought as investments, and what the sellers did, they made them into what I think they called bundles. So somebody with a lot of money from, say, Korea or from China, probably more likely from China, but in these other countries, could come with scant knowledge about how things really worked. They were buying a bundle of, say, 5 or 10 houses, and they had the money to buy these, and they buy the mortgage, they buy the house in effect. Now, whoever is living in the house is paying the same mortgage, but to who? So, this clever man said, I am more than willing to pay the mortgage if I know that you own the house. Now, that's totally reasonable. It was regarded at the time as being something of a scam. Oh, well, he's not owning up to his debt. He said, I am perfectly willing, more than willing, to pay for my house. But who am I paying it to? Somebody knocked on my door and said, we own your house. Very good. can I see the note? And they didn't have it. And the reason they didn't have it was because the people that were buying and flipping houses, and we had someone that came as a guest here that was full of money because he'd been doing exactly this. He bought a house, he sent his workers in, they tarted it up, and then they sold it again at a great profit. Now, when they made up the bundles, it was all happening so fast that they didn't do the paperwork. Now, as a northerner in the north of England, around the Manchester area, there used to be a little cartoon of a baby sitting on what we used to call the jerry, the pot, all right? So doing his or her little potty. And the little sign underneath, the legend said, "The job's not done till the paperwork's done." Now that was what was happening with all of these mortgages, and people were losing their homes. People in America were living in the forest. Families were living in abandoned boats in shipyards, places where you could leave, and these places still exist because they provide a service, and boats were being abandoned and people were living in them, and the people who ran these yards, what could they do? I remember reading of one family of 4 or 5, and they were living in this dry dock boat. What could they do with these people? They couldn't throw them out. These were not like people who worked for a bank. These were not bankers who would have thrown them out before they even thought about it. So, the paperwork was not done. Now, why did it matter? Because somebody who was a little bit savvy in what was a cutthroat market at the time could say, "I want to see the note." And of course the man who started all of this, to my knowledge, was the one with the, I think, $2 million house. And they took him to court, right? They took him to court to evict him. And the judge said, "Why are you not paying your mortgage?" And the man said, "I am perfectly willing, Your Honour, to pay the mortgage if I know who I am paying it to." And the judge said, "Well, what will it take?" And the man said, "I just want to see the note. Who holds the note?" Over to the people who were bringing the case against him, and the judge says, Can we see the note, please?" That was when the attorneys had to do a little bit of footwork and say, well, Your Honour, it's like this, you see, and it was put in a bundle, and the bundle was sold to somebody in Australia who sold the bundle in another part as part of another bundle to someone in Korea who has since sold it to someone in China. Thank you, I imagine the judge saying, "Now, why don't we take it back to the beginning, find the note, and let me and this man see the note, and then we can all get paid up and go home." So I don't know the end of that story, but the man walked away and went home to his $2 million home, and he didn't pay anything. My guess is until the note was found. But I think this happened so much that what may possibly, and I'm only guessing, what may possibly have happened is that eventually they had to say, well, we're going to have to be able to work on a copy of the original note. So that's what eventually happened, and everybody lived happily ever after. I think so. Can't remember what we started off this conversation with, but I'm almost at the end of my dirt road now. We were talking about the cost of houses, weren't we? Yeah. So let me just tidy this end up a little bit. A house here is the same. Right now we're almost at the end of the road. Almost. Let me just take this down. We're almost at the end of the road, and we are next to a very fine house, which is up there. That is a beautiful house. And Beth's answer to these beautiful houses is that it's owned by a seaman who sent the money home to his teacher wife, and she had the beautiful house built. There's another house there that was damaged by the typhoon, and they have repaired it. There's another house here, and for the worry warts I'm doing 2 or 3 miles an hour with my hand filled with a camera, and I'm not going to do much more. So these houses are close to the road, and they're on small plots of land. So what's the worth? How much did it cost? It depends on the location. While you're looking there and seeing a house there, if you look over here, you'll see that it's still just countryside, and right over there on the horizon you'll see a sliver of one of the other islands and the water in between. So you're always aware that this is a place that is an island. So that house there is very nice. They've recently done a terrific amount of remodeling because of the damage created by Odette, which is the same for this house too. And that's a very nice house. And of course all of these houses apparently are owned by seamen who are not here. They've been sending the money home, and their wives and families get the house built, and that's how it can work here. Now we're almost on the road down, so I will close by a mugshot. So thank you for being here with me. Yes, I'm still recording, and bye for now.